Welcome to today's episode. I'm Hussein and I'm going to walk through 10 random highlights from my various readings. I'm in the interest of time I'm just going to skip straight into the highlights today. So the first one is from Choose Possibility. The main benefit of trying something new was simply to increase your knowledge. How will you did something mattered less than your ability to simply get out there, take a shot and learn something. As the theologian John Henry Newman remarked, a man would do nothing if he waited until he could do it so well that no one could find fault. This is pointing towards the nature of experimentation rather than waiting for perfection to get a task done. Treating something as an experiment, that it's a risk, that it may happen, it may not happen, it may succeed, it may not succeed. There is equal possibility. In fact, it may even be that there is a higher risk of it not working, but we're going to do this anyway because it's a risk worth taking. So the point was to learn something, take a shot and learn something, like the highlight says. That's the key to get moving. This whole book is about choosing possibility. It's about um, taking risks, and taking small risks regularly rather than large risks at a few times. Taking small risk regularly so that you build the appetite to take risks also, and that actually results into something more productive over a longer period of time. So yes, that's what it's essentially coming down to. Followed with the quote: "A man would do nothing if he waited until he could do it so well that no one would find fault." So the point is, of course, there is always a mistake that you will make in any task that you do. You can't avoid mistakes. You just have to deal with them. Moving on, kill it with fire, and it's a long one. One of the reasons that DevOps and SRE movements have had such a beneficial effect on software development is that they seek to re-establish accountability. If product engineering teams play a role in running and maintaining their own infrastructure, they are the ones who feel the impact of their own decisions. When they build something that doesn't scale, they are the ones who are awakened at 3 a.m. with a page. Making software engineers responsible for the health of their infrastructure instead of a separate operation team unmutes the feedback loop. So that's I think this hits the point very cleanly what DevOps is all about. It's about accountability. It's not about tooling. It's not about this fancy technologies that have come up, cloud computing or whatever. It's not about any of those things. It's a paradigm in which we look at software engineering with a fresh set of eyes, looking at it that this is how we are going to take up accountability going forward. So, like the highlight says, that if the product engineering teams, they have to maintain their own infrastructure, not a separate ops team, then they are the ones who are going to be awakened at 3 a.m., which means that first of all, accountability is established with the software engineering team, and that translates into a greater quality because, of course, a team would not want to be awakened at 3 a.m. with a page. So it's not somebody else's problem, it's my own problem, and I have to fix it in my team as well itself. Then that's why that is this pattern that we have, the DevOps being under team in an organization. That's really an anti-pattern. That's not DevOps. It's just like it's a fancy name for that classical ops team, or SRE. If there is like an SRE team in an organization, it's the same thing. Like the infrastructure is somebody else's problem. Rather, you have people on the team, either the existing engineers, existing developers who are working on the application, and if the infrastructure is complex enough, then a dedicated engineer who's going to look at the operations, but still a part of the team. And that's how the tasks are planned. That's how the tasks are assigned. Uh, I feel I can keep going on for this, but as far as this highlight is concerned, I think I've said enough. Moving on. Thanks for the feedback. Another long one. In our minds, we have a high definition movie that captures all that we mean by those labels: the bad behavior, the angry tone, the irritating habits that we endure. When we use a label, we are seeing that movie, and it's painfully clear. It's easy to forget that when we convey the label to someone else, the movie is not attached. All they are hearing is a few vague words. This means that even when we take the feedback, it's easy to misconstrue the meaning. So the The problem is, the highlight is pointing to, is that feedback is delivered through words, but those words represent a definite, a specific idea in your mind. So when you receive feedback, this whole book is about receiving the feedback. There's very very little about giving feedback, because like the book makes a point that like the area of biggest impact lies in receiving the feedback. That's where the potential for biggest change lies. So when you're receiving feedback, you're receiving it as a set of words, but there is an impression behind those words, and um, we don't know that. When we're receiving, we don't know that, and when we're looking at it from the point of the view of the giver of the feedback. It's like, it's something you keep in mind, that when you're giving feedback, when you're passing on words, but what is behind those words, what is the intent, what is the story behind the words, that's missing, right? Like the highlight says, we have a high definition movie. When we're giving feedback, we have a high definition movie that catches all the labels that we want to give, and we can say that, okay, that this behavior is bad, or this behavior is not productive for the team, or not taking up ownership, all of that feedback. But that misses out a lot of context, which means that feedback must be done clearly, it must be done regularly, because over time this movie fades out. And if you just keep the labels and you're giving it out once a year, I don't know if anybody does that anymore, but I'm sure there might be like very few people who do it, but yeah, most people, they have moved on to continuous feedback, where you share feedback at the soonest possible opportunity. I don't mean instantly, like, although some people do that as well. But it may not be instantly. It may be, for example, waiting for a day, or for 2 days, or maybe a week. When you, like, if, for example, if you're waiting out to see the results of a previous feedback. Anyway, I think I'm getting into a rabbit hole over here. The point of this highlight, again, getting back to this, is that the labels that we give in the feedback, the text that we share, that has a lot of lost meaning, because that, like the highlight says, the movie, that's missing. So, moving on. The leader's greatest return. The weaker the culture, the more leaders must rely on policies and procedures to make people behave in a certain way. What you lack in culture, you must make up for in legislation. Okay, I don't know if I really need to add anything over here. It's certainly an opinion. The weaker the culture, again, like that's the key phrase over here. Weaker the culture specifically, because it could mean a lot of different things. Perceptions of it. That what does the author mean by culture over here? And over here, it's really an all-comprehensive thing, about all-encompassing thing, that kind of that combines all the behaviors and um, all the typical, the standard normal behaviors on a team. So yeah, if the normal behaviors are already adhering to a specific culture, then you don't really need policies and procedures. So yeah, that's really about it. Moving on. Measure what matters. Micromanagement is mismanagement. A healthy OKR environment strikes a balance between alignment and autonomy, common purpose and creative latitude. The professional employee, Peter Drucker wrote, needs rigorous performance standards and high goals, but how he does his work should always be his responsibility and his decision. So, the point of OKRs is not to micromanage. It's to define high level goals, and high goals. It's not just like high level goals. It's also high goals, ambitious goals, in another, like putting it another way, is like you give that, and how exactly it gets implemented, that's up to the person, that's up to the individual. The structure of OKR, the key results and everything, how you define the key results and the objectives, that should take care of defining if the work is accurately portrayed. Because the problem with high goals is that sometimes the context is lost. The goal is at such a high level that there might be things missing in the implementation detail, and we may end up building up something else, which is why OKR, the exercise of defining that OKR is very difficult. You have to capture all the objectives and key results each of which will define that, okay, this is what the outcome of the task should look like, or it should match the intended outcome. And the book goes into this subject in quite some detail, that each key result should be individually measurable in a way, and also that all the key results collectively give a complete picture of what the task is supposed to be, all the boundary conditions of the task, for example. So uh, once we have that, how the person does their work is always their responsibility. There's no need for micromanagement going forward. Oh, Fellowship of the Ring, it's a supplemental highlight. So the quest may be attempted by the weak with as much hope as the strong. Yet such is oft the course of deeds that move the wheels of world. Small hands do them because they must, while the eyes of the great are elsewhere. It's from the Fellowship of the. Of course, it's from the Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm guessing it's been a while since I read these books. I'm guessing it's from Elrond's Council, but again, like, not much to say here. Let's move on. If you're a fan, you probably already know where this is coming from. Show your work. Amateurs are not afraid to make mistakes or look ridiculous in public. They are in love, so they don't hesitate to do work that others think of as silly or just plain stupid. The stupidest possible creative act is still a creative act, right? Writes Clay Shirky in his book Cognitive Surplus. It's about just showing your work. Even if you feel that work is not perfect, you're still showing it. You're still portraying it to the world. And today, of course, there are a lot of platforms that make it very easy. If it's coding, it's GitHub. If it is design, I'm not really sure, but I think like there is this site called Dribble or Behance. I'm not really into that space. But the point is that there are a lot of different platforms that portray your creativity this way. And yeah, amateurs are not afraid to make mistakes. And the point is that amateurs begin because they're not afraid to make mistakes, whereas experts may have that reservation that, okay, no, I can't release this. Anyway, yeah, moving on. Measure what matters. Again, a few goal setting ground rules. Key results should be succinct, specific, and measurable. A mix of outputs and inputs is helpful. Finally, completion of all key results must result in attainment of the objective. If not, it's not an OKR. It's like a coincidence. I just discussed this, 2 highlights back. So I don't really think I should repeat any of those things again. It's just, like 2 highlights back. Moving on, the earned life. If I could have only one index card to carry with me for the rest of my life, so I could look at it any time of a day as a reminder of how I should behave to achieve an earned life, this would be the message I would write on it. Am I being the person I want to be right now? So as it happens, I just read this last night. This section. It's really almost at the end of the book, where the author is summarizing the earned life in a chapter called The Earned Life. And this book is all about being present, being in the present, uh, disassociating with your past self. That the past self, yes, you have learnings from that person, but that's a different person. And your future is not here, that's a different person. So the only time where you can live is in the present. And that's what it all boils down to, according to author over here. If there can only be one reminder of what it means to live an earned life all the time, am I being the person I want to be right now? In the present moment, am I living in the present? Am I being here right now? Am I being that person that I want to be right now? My behaviors, my outlook, the events that I'm experiencing and my reactions to those events. Am I being in the present, or am I attaching, my past work or my past identity, past achievements with it? Because again, like the book goes into detail related to regarding this, that the past self is a completely detached thing. The achievements, the challenges, the achievements, all of those belong to that past self, not to you. You in the present. And that is what you are to live. Yeah, of course your learnings are from the past self. You're not going to discard your learnings, but then you're going to live right now. It's not who you were, it's who you are right now. That's what matters. Yeah, moving on. Measure what matters. Where OKRs take root, merit trumps seniority. Managers become coaches, mentors, and architects. Actions and data speak louder than words. Again, I think this kind of like a summary of what I was saying earlier. But yeah, and anyway, this is like it's quite standalone in itself. And that also means that we're at the end of our highlights today. This I hope the video quality is better today because I've used a different mode on my camera to set this up. I realized over like recent research that the mode I was recording in was really 1080p, and it was done in software, which means that there might have been some loss of quality. So let's see. I hope the quality today is better. At least the video part. The screen recording is should not be any different. Anyway, I'll be exploring more in my my camera setup and everything. Plus, there are a bunch of other videos I have to record. So I think that's it for the day. Thank you.